Hello. We're getting started here for our 10 minutes of the day. I'm a little later today. Okay. Barron Trump collection. We're starting on page 150. Okay. $150. Sorry. Okay. No. I can't see. The writing was dim and shadowy. I did not let that trouble me, for skilled as I am in the chemist's art, I had no time in applying an acid which restored the writing to its old-time blackness. I had some difficulty in deciphering the language in which it was written, the ancient Venetian, but with the aid of several scores of dictionaries, I finally rendered it into modern tongue, passing it through Aramaic, thence into Greek, and finally into my own tongue. When at last I had gotten over all the difficulties and could read the descriptions with that ease necessary to bring out their full sense, I was nearly beside myself with joy. It was a story of a voyage made by a venturesome navigator 6,000 years ago, when the earth was still in its infancy, still hot in some places. In fact, only the highest mountains and tablelands had cooled off enough to be habitable. Pushing off from the shores of Arabia, the bold captain had pointed his ship towards the rising sun. In wonders of wonders, after many awful perils and terrible privations, he had entered waters which, to his almost unutterable amazement, grew warmer and warmer as he sailed over them. At first, his men refused to proceed any farther, but by dint of threats, persuasion, and goodly presents, the bold sailor went his way, wondering and rejoicing. After many days he entered a body of water, which, from his descriptions, I at once recognized as the China Sea. So now all further advance was impossible. In vain his oarsmen lent their aid to drive the little vessel forward. Huge waves of heated water, always from the same direction, drove his craft backward. At last the truth of the matter dawned upon him. He was on the outer edge of some vast boiling sea, which, rolling its hot waves ever outward, drove back his cockle shell of a bark. Making for a lofty promontory, he clambered to its highest point, wearing thick felt shoes and gloves to protect his feet and hands from the heated rocks. A fearful yet a sublimely beautiful sight met his gaze. For hundreds and hundreds of miles, the waters were in a state of most violent boiling, springing and leaping into the air as if a legion of giant demons were beneath, forcing their hot breath upward from vast cavernous lurking places. Upon reading of this boiling sea, I was seized with an uncontrollable desire to go in search of it. True, the waters might have cooled down in all these centuries, and yet I was confident I should find some trace of this once terrible cauldron of seething waters. The China Sea was only slightly known to navigators of my day and generation. It had often been darkly hinted at that the vast body of water was studded with wonderful isles and filled with rare monsters. I had no time to lose. Hastily penning a letter of adieu to my father and mother, I joined my ship, accompanied by my ever-faithful Bulgar, and turned her prow towards the rising sun. So well were the waters of the East known to me from my long and close study of the most reliable charts that I found I could almost steer my craft through them blindfolded. It was not many days ere I entered this beautiful expanse of water, which, in the youth of the world, was filled with such marvelous creatures swimming on it and in it. Onward, ever onward, through its dark blue waves, now mounting their foaming crested heights, now rocking like a thing of life upon its billowy highway, my trusty little vessel plowed her way. 10 times a day, under plea of wishing to cool my brow in a basin of seawater, I called out to some of my men to let down a bucket, but only to find, to my deep disappointment, that its temperament was no higher than is usual in those latitudes. I began to grow low-spirited. My crew noticed my dejection, and at times my attentive ear caught murmurs of discontent. To restore my men to their usual good spirits, I offered a reward of 1,000 ducats to the one who should first discover that the water was growing warmer. 1,000 ducats. It was a goodly sum, but I was growing desperate. The large reward, however, had one good effect. It put new life into my men. All day long, buckets rattled against the ship's sides. 3 of the more venturesome men hit upon a plan to earn the reward and divide it among them. Lashing themselves together, then lowered themselves down over the side of the vessel until their feet just touched the water. Hence, here they determined to stay so that they might be the first to announce the increase of warmth in the water, and in this way make sure of the 1,000 ducats. Suddenly, a fearful outcry, accompanied by the most piteous whining on the part of Bulger, caused me to rush up on deck. A sea monster, a third as long as our ship, had risen directly under them. Motionless with fright, they fell an easy prey to this terrible foe. Opening his vast cavernous jaws, he swallowed the whole 3 at a single gulp. My men were wild with grief. They heaped mad words of reproach upon me. I had great difficulty in restoring anything like order or discipline. My commands fell upon deaf ears. At last I succeeded in quieting the raging, weeping crowd. Knowing from my experience with such dread inhabitants of the deep that this monster had only whetted his appetite by these morsels of human flesh, I directed my men to make haste and construct a straw man, using clothes of the same color as those worn by 3 unfortunates. Into the bosom of this effigy I stored away a 1/4 quintal of ipecacuanha of prime quality, which, by good luck, I found in my stock of medicines. The dummy was now lowered to the water's edge, at exactly the same spot where the monster had made his luncheon on my 3 excellent seamen. Thank you. We had not long to wait. He rose to the bait in a few moments, and, upon opening his huge jaw, thrust out a tongue as large as red as a roasted ox, and gulped down the savory morsel I had provided for him with a rumbling gurgle which made my blood run cold. Recovering myself, I sprang up into the shrouds and kept my eyes fixed upon this rare monster, who floated away lazily a ship's length and then came to a dead halt. Ever and anon a quiver shot through the entire length of his body. Evidently he was having no difficulty in swallowing this last morsel. Huge ridges formed about his neck and rolled backwards till they were lost beneath the waters. A certain uneasiness now marked his movements. He rolled from side to side, opening and shutting his jaws with a snap that sounded like a bang of 2 great oaken doors. The dainty 1/4 quintal of ipecacuanha was manifestly beginning to distress him. His rocking and rolling motion increased in violence. In one moment his huge body turned upon its side, bent itself until head and tail met. At another it arched itself in air until its black back spanned the waters like a bow. Like a bow? I now felt that it was time to act. "Stand by the starboard launch," I called out to my men. "Avast that blubbering. All ready?" "Aye, aye," came back from the gang. "Lower away, then." I was not a whit too quick with my orders. The launch had no sooner struck the water than the sea monster, after a series of terrible contortions, during which it almost seemed as if the huge body would be snapped in twain, began to disgorge the varied contents of his stomach. First, shower after shower of many-colored fishes of all sizes, from a hand's length to 3 cubits, filled the air. As they fell into the water, they calmly swam away, no doubt well pleased to find themselves in more agreeable surroundings. Thousands of shellfish, all kinds, sizes, and colors, then came flying forth, rattling their claws together as they fell into the water, as if in defiance of their huge foe that had been so unceremoniously called upon to give up the results of many a long hour's hunt. The living was followed by the dead. Okay, we're going to stop there. Dun, dun, dun. And I'm going to finish with our little... Okay. Quit procrastinating on anything and everything. Time wasted is just that, wasted. Avoid distractions and the noise around me. Block it out. The art of continuous self-love through food, through water intake, through intentional meditation and thought. Something inside of me is superior to circumstance. Is it kind? Is it true? Does it reflect my authentic self? Focus more on money and its education. Focus more on self-discipline. See the sun, honor the moon. Forward momentum. The path out of hell is through misery. Honor my journey. We are slaves to our own incessant urges to escape the present moment. Meditate, walk, journal, stretch, love animals. Leave life to wonder all it needs. Less stress, more fairy tale. Work on bettering the love I show my body through the food and beverage I put in it. With money, it's not what you make, but what you keep. Focus. Lose any ties to victim mentality. Continue to help yourself. Okay. That was a quick one, too. This is where we ended, but I'm going to do it like right here. Okay. See you tomorrow.